And we're live. Hello, good evening and welcome to EvilGinger Miniatures regular Tuesday stream. I hope there are people in the chat at some point soon, and there's a lot to chat about. First of all, I've noticed I haven't been doing as much YouTube as I had been doing because I've stopped feeling the need for the preparation streams for this. However, as this means I haven't done one, there's a gap between these of a week, obviously, because they're every Tuesday. I'm probably going to be doing some bits and pieces in the week, just so you have more to look at if you like this sort of thing. And as I said, if you like this sort of thing and want it done better and more professionally, I recommend Annie's Sunday Morning Coffee as a good place to go. There are more peaks in the talk than there are here. I don't have pets. It's one of the joys of living in a rented property. No pets. Whatever dog I've had a chance. For exercise purposes, you understand, if nothing else. Anyway, getting on to the subject of wargaming, I've got quite a few bits and pieces to show you, and I've got something to do while we're on stream. And hopefully, eventually, I'm going to be getting a camera that I can actually show you what I'm doing off camera, because at the moment I'm stuck with this thing up here, which is just a laptop camera, which, while it seems to work for this, is very hard to point at things that I'm doing without, especially as I have issues with left and right as to where I'm pointing stuff. So I might be pointing the wretched camera at that. It would be a lot easier. Stuff to do is off here, off this side, and I will be bringing it in, and I will be doing naughty things like working over my keyboard with stuff that's powdery. First of all, let's have a hunt through these. What have we got here? Oh, we've got more stuff in there. Yeah, I've got plenty of stuff. I thought first of all, won't be assembling these on stream, but I probably will be doing them on one of the little mini streams that I'll be doing in the week. These are from Great Escape Games. They are a sprue from Gunfighters 2, which are the female set. There is a Gunfighters 1, which are a male set. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. Including the legs for trousers. So if you want more women with trousers and less women with dresses on, you can mix and match with the male ones. There's also some cool bits and pieces like this lantern and the chicken, and I'm not entirely sure what those are, but they're quite nice. And of course the weapons will swap between them, as these have got a different weapons mix to the men slightly, though preponderance of revolvers and carbines and the occasional shotgun. They're great for kit bashing like all plastics, and you get 3 sprues of them, each with 5 models in the Redux set, which I have done an unboxing on previously. I would link it, but technology beyond my comprehension at the moment, but I'll get there. As I say, the sets, the Redux sets, the Dead Man's Under Redux sets are either male or female. The only difference is in a male box you get 2 Gunfighter 1 sprues and 1 Gunfighter 2 sprue, and in a female box you get the opposite. So you also get 3 very nice buildings, the 1-story ones, a boardwalk, and all the bits and pieces in a nice rule book to play the game with. And there are 2-story buildings available, and I believe later in the year there are going to be mounted versions of these, so you could mix and match your own kit bashed cowboys. I have actually used these for kit bashing in all sorts of other ways, including a female barbarian for the online game that I want to run on here at some point in the future, and which I will be talking about probably nearer the time. it'll be something I can't do until I've got editing software and worked out what to do with it, at least to my level of functionality. Anyway, that's Dead Man's Hand, and you'll be seeing these on the feed, and I'll be showing them off probably on an impromptu stream at some point. Right, that's rid of that. We also have over here lots and lots of Frostgrave scenery. Now these are still waiting bits and pieces because I'm going to do a big batch of it. I've got a box of, well, I've got 2 boxes of Frostgrave scenery that I'm sort of assembling, and there are bits and pieces that I haven't assembled, like the roof bits, because I haven't got the walls to support them and stuff like that. So big Frostgrave kick, mostly for doing demo games at Books and Banter, and hopefully a bit of a mass gaming session at Books and Banter, so we can get several people playing in teams and sort of swapping and changing. Not a tournament. It's not a tournament game, but you'd be playing with it, playing against each other, you know, so you get a good variety of games. Now we're going to get onto the thing that I was actually going to be talking about today, mostly, which is basic basing. Basing is a pain. I procrastinate about basing something awful. I do the beginnings of it quite quickly, and the beginnings of it look like this. This is, by the way, a Bad Squiddo Community Miniatures figure, and if you're not signed up for Community Miniatures, I'm very surprised. I've not actually finished blocking this one. As you can see, there are still white bits on there. I always prime white. I find it a lot easier than black in most cases, especially if I'm painting really bright colours, and these are quite bright. But basically, here I have painted the base a soil colour, a muddy brown, and then I have painted with white glue and covered it with Builder's Sharp Sand, which I have a 25 kilo bag of and have had for years. It's currently about half full. Bought the wet stuff. If you leave it, you can either dry it in an oven, or you can just let the air get to it and it will dry itself out in most houses fairly quickly. I think I'll let mine air dry after the initial batches, which were done in a tray in the oven. But that's one. I can't remember the woman's name. Notorious 19th century Chinese pirate. And I think she was featured, though she's a bit late, in one of the Jack Sparrow type films. And here's another one. The figure here is Mary Fields, and I've got a bit further with the painting in here. In fact, the painting is almost finished because it's a fairly simple colour scheme. Need possibly to suggest eyes and buttons, but I can't see any buttons that are on display. I also probably need to put a wash over the barrels of the gun because it's a bit sort of monochrome. It's just blocked in. I've done shading on the coat and the trousers, and the boots were done with speed paint over brown, so that the speed paint acts as a shading ink. And the little cap is, I believe, wool, and it might, though I need to look at this, have a little silver badge on it which says US Post, something of the sort. Again, there might be something on the bag which I could suggest, because it's a bit small to paint to freehand stuff on. All right, they're underway, but I've got some nearly finished stuff. Now, I have put pictures up of these at various stages. First one of them is this one. This one is actually finished, but very cleverly, I got this guy who's a Frostgrave apprentice, which I kit bashed out of plastic, out of Frostgrave Soldier 1s, bits and pieces from the Wizard set, arms from the Wizard set, and I think the swords from the Wizard set as well. But basically, I messed up because one of my free to hire soldiers, which I will also show you in a moment and be doing the bases on, has got the same torso. or a similar torso, and I very foolishly just gloss varnished the bit that I thought I'd missed on that one, and I had to matte varnish this one again. So he's now done, and he will be joining. You've already seen him finished, and he'll be rejoining the finished ones. The ones I have finished are the free to pay, free to hire. And here we have a Thug, again, almost entirely based on the Soldiers 1 kit. The backpack is, I believe, from Soldiers 2. Again, somebody nice and basic, based on a penny. I don't base the ones I sell on pennies because this puts the postage up. I use plastic bases, which mean they don't have the heft these do, but again, it saves you on the postage. And as I tend everything signed for, that makes a difference. And then we have another one, also a Thug. Again, the club, I'm not entirely sure whether the club is actually the one that's supposed to be attached to that arm, but I did do some kit bashing. I think this one hasn't got much belt clutter from other sets, so this is fairly well out of the box. Then we have this guy, who's a thief. He is kit bashed. He's got an orc dagger. That's a secondary weapon that the orcs had in the orc set. I just cut his hand off at the wrist and replaced it. This is a thief. The cheap, fast-moving units, as opposed to the thugs, who are the basic fighters unit. Another thief, again, bits entirely out of the Frostgrave Soldiers 1 box. Now, those only need snow on them, and the snow is fairly simple. It's this stuff, kraut cover, powder snow, which I'm really liking, which is why I've shown it off before now. It's probably something I'm going to be using on all my Frostgrave figures and all my Frostgrave scenery. So when I finish this stuff, there's going to be snow drifting around the base and possibly a dusting on the surface, top surfaces. Now, easy enough to apply. Well, I probably need to put the other glasses on so I can actually see what I'm doing properly, because these are just reading glasses. Over there, we have the magnifying glasses. Won't need the top bits up, so I can get these out of the way. And I'll also need a little bit of white glue. Just standard white glue. I've got a couple of pots of about. The other one is on the other table, where I've been using it for sticking sand onto bases. And you also need a paintbrush. Let me find a paintbrush that I had lined up for this. Probably better to use a paintbrush I'm not that fond of, but I'm a terrible human being when it comes to paintbrushes, and I'll use whatever I lay my hands on. Mostly because the majority of my paintbrushes spend most of their time hiding and are not immediately to hand. But you just put a little bit of white glue on there. Try and do it in a pattern so it's not even, because it gives a bit of visual interest to the base doing it like that. And I get this stuff, which is a kraut come out, and I just sprinkle it liberally over the top. Don't have to be too precise, because what you're doing is you're just basically covering it in flock. You put it off to one side, and when it's gone off, which we're a couple of hours yet, you tap it and recover the material. Then we have another one, so I don't end up wrongly basing a figure, because there are other figures out there that I'm going to be using different basing techniques on. So Frostgrave is easy. Dungeons and D&D and other role-playing miniatures are also easy. I just used the sand, painted sand mostly, as you're effectively trying to make something that's environment neutral, that doesn't look out of place. Same sort of idea as the clear bases, but I think the clear bases always look out of place whatever the terrain you do them on. But again, it's a matter of personal preference. And there's got another one. I'm going to do this. I also like to think with Frostgrave that people wouldn't be going down areas that had lots of snow, because really deep snow probably means there might be stuff that's hidden by it. and the stuff that's hidden by it might be dangerous, and there's plenty of things in Frostgrave that will kill you without courting disaster. And there we are. He's just got his little bit of snow around the bottom. As I say, not all of that will stick, as you can see it's falling off, but when it's all dry, I'll give him a tap on the bottom of the base. I'll do that to demonstrate with something relatively heavy, and it shakes off the loose material and you get what you want. And if you don't have enough, you just repeat the process. Right, there's one more of those to do. Another rogue. Hopefully I'll be taking these to Books and Banter tomorrow. So if anybody is down at Books and Banter in Burton, you get to see these in person. The downside is you also get to see me in person, which is possibly a downside, as I say. But I have to get out every so often, otherwise I will go dysfunctionally mad, possibly driven so by interactions with telephone banking services in today's case. All right. Clean your brush, because I very carefully left the water well out of range. Is there any water in that? No, there isn't. Any water in that one? No, there isn't. Again, jam jars and pickle jars and things for water. But I cunningly didn't leave them in, so we're going to use Mark 1 method. It's honestly non-toxic, this stuff. It's never done me any harm. The other thing I could have done was thinned it a little bit, because that would have meant it was a bit easier to paint, but the thinner it is, the less stuff sticks to it, and I wanted a relatively dense snow effect. Now, this one here is a dwarf standard bearer. He is a kit bash made from several kits based off of a Oathmark dwarf standard infantry. The shield is also from standard infantry, but the arms are from Frostgrave Knights, spare ones from that, which I find a little short. Hence, they're working very well on the dwarves. And the flag, the standard pole, is of course Roman. That's a Vexillo standard, which I've just painted up to cover the thing. Now, I want to put this away before I do anything stupid like put snow on something I don't want snow on. Now, the way I'm going to do this is the other way round from the way that I normally do it, which is this is going to have tufts on it and static grass. Static grass is a hobby round, but these may sound expensive hobby rounds, but you don't actually need an awful lot of static grass. And I've had that one for a long time. I believe I got it in Spirit back in the day. Yeah, £3.50 from Spirit Games. And that's over 4 years ago now, because that was when it was still open as a shop rather than having to go online for things. Which is a shame it's closed, because, well, formats with Uncle Philip apart, it was an absolute wonderful asset. Now, you put loads of this on. You don't need a sprinkler or anything like that, but the idea is you get a good thickness on it, and again, like the snow, you let it go off and you then tap it away back into the pot. Now, that guy is for my Fantasy African Southern Dwarves thing, and will also be having tufts on his base, probably light green ones, like these, ideally, which are Gamer's Grass. These are, I tend to mix the two types. There are those which you can also get in light green, which I don't have to hand, and shorter round ones. On a small base, the longer stuff doesn't always work, so you want both. And you can do any number of bases with that method where you're using tufts and static grass, but you generally have to let one go off first. Now, for the next operation, we're going to get my hobgoblins. These are kit bashes based on late Roman stuff. That's a late Roman gripping beast, late Roman cataphract horse, and the body is that of a late Roman heavy cavalryman from Victrix, as of the standard and the arms. The shield is from some Dark Age range. I think it's probably gripping beast, because everybody has generic round shields. The flag is from the Victrix set, but the little round thing in the middle of it, which hasn't worked properly because I've got a bubble under it, is from a ancient Space Marine set, and has all the usual quality that one associates with Games Workshop transfers, which were a bit thick and not very good. And without prepping, I've also noticed that there are shiny bits on here, because I only primed these this afternoon, and probably should have given them a day and done them yesterday. But I wasn't sure I had a decent set of varnish to hand, because the previous one was definitely a dud. So these were left in gloss for a long time. Theoretically, I should be able to mat that down enough. Again, there's stuff to soften decals and make them stick a bit better than that one has. And I may paint over it and redo it, because that's the other nice thing about decals, is you can always paint over it, and I can always change it for a better decal from VVV, because they do a mailed fist that's not in that loop. All right, put him to one side, because that will only take a few moments to dry, and we'll look at this guy. This guy is the Warlord, and he's all worked completely. Again, gripping beast horse, head, and basically a head is from, and I keep noticing I've missed bit, which you probably don't, but up close and personal, they really irritate. So I'm going to put him to one side, and we'll get onto the next guy, who is one of the Victrix cavalrymen made up from the actual set without any additional bits and pieces. He's got an infantryman's shield on, because he's meant to be a mounted officer of infantry, rather than a cavalryman as such. There wouldn't be that much difference in the gear. I could have probably, if I'd had a Victrix infantryman's helmet, used that just to reiterate the point. But he's for Saga Age of Invasions, and will be leading a 6-point warband, which will be all infantry. So he's definitely the outlier. Now we're going to do the opposite thing with him. We're going to put the tufts on first, and I'm going to leave the static grass until I have found the static grass that I'm looking for, which is a dark green static grass, which I think is on a tray. As usual with super glue, it's gone and clogged. And what did I do with the wiry thing? Now, this is a wire spear or standard pole, and what you do is you poke it through the lid and it unblocks it, ramrod styley. The thing with the spear is it means it's got a point on it, and it's also got a wider bit that you can use to ream out the hole. And again, put a little drop of that on there. Doesn't come out, you then apply method B, which is to cut the end off, because the end is a little bit, and I'll cut the end off on the chopping board rather than over the keyboard, and you just take the tip off. It's almost invariably the tip that's the problem, and then you've got a tube. And I'll attempt to squeeze out a bit. As you can see on there, there's a bit of goop. And the applicator for the goop is, where's that spear? Where did I put the spear? Is this thing. Because that's the actual reason I had it around there, not to unblock the thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take one of these longer tufts here. Again, these are Gramer's grass. 2nd gen, I believe. Not seen any 3rd yet. And what you do is you just put a little dab of glue on the base. You don't technically have to glue the thing down, but because they are self-adhesive. However, I have bet wargamers before, and they are sometimes not as adhesive as you might like. And the object of the exercise here is using these with static grass, is that you get a variety of texture. Because if anybody's ever looked at a field, you'll see areas of grass which are longer and which are shorter. And tufts are the more expensive way of doing this, but they're really quick. You just basically put them on and you're done. Yeah, so just building up a few. And the other trick is to find all the glue you've put down, because whilst super glue dries clear, it also dries shiny, which is irritating. It means, for my personal peace of mind, I have to go around and matte varnish it, because if it's meant to be matte, it's matte. And one more bit to do with these. Again, there's all sorts of things you can do with tweezers. Do it quick. That's just all one texture. But to add a bit more visual interest, I add a different color and I add a different texture. This is light green. That I believe is either deep green or dark green. I could get the same tufts in that, but these are smaller. That's why I glued them. That one fell off while I was handling it. Again, these are shorter and smaller. I think there's a 6mm, and I think these might be 4. But again, just want to stick a few of them down just to add a bit of visual interest. It's a very subtle visual interest, but your bases shouldn't look boring and should show up the figure as much as possible. Even on bases like dungeon bases, where you really don't need them to be bi-coloured, I will make sure that there are rocks and that sort of thing for a bit of interest, which is one of the reasons the grey rocks you see on so many of my bases. The other reason is it's a way of getting rid of a piece of extra milliput, and again that's down for that. And I will almost certainly be putting some static grass on there in a bit, but I'll leave that one to go off while we're chatting, because we've got time yet. It's only half an hour in, so you've put up with me wittering for half an hour, so you can put up for it a bit longer. Now, this guy, I would be doing the same style of base on, because he's meant to be a Dunlending from Dunland in north of Rohan, and I need him for Middle-earth strategy battle game. Again, this is all done real time, which means you don't get any editing out. One, because I can't, and the other because it's nice to show people how things go realistically. I think I'm just going to use the dark color on him alone. And I've just knocked things off. Yeah, that's the glue just gone. So we've got that. As you can see, this guy has got a little grey bit on the base, and that's another one of the contrast things. And I'll just reach off there and find glue, because I wouldn't be a gamer if I wasn't clumsy and knock stuff off tables and find all sorts of great stuff when I go digging under the table and sweep the floor. Some of it's even useful. And we've got one more little bit, which I'm just going to put a little bit more glue under. And I shall put, again, some static grass on him as well. You can do less on the smaller bases than you can do on the big ones. So again, you need a variety of tufts to get that. He's just got the tufts on, so it looks like he's running through long grass. So he's going to go off a bit. And then we're going to do the interesting bit, which strangely is going to be done the same way as my Byzantines. I wouldn't be planning on having them fight each other, would I? And actually I would, because I'm going to be doing some play testing for a set of rules that I'm going to be writing. Just for my entertainment, loosely based on a combination of sharp practice and for me, the Ancients rules, which will feature a lot of Oathmark stuff, oddly, and be fantasy themed. Again, volunteers are being looked for to do playtesting on this when it gets to a point I can playtest. And again, that's the dark grass going, and I'll put him down over there for the moment while he just sets a little bit, and I shall do the standard bearer. Again, just put a bit more glue on there because it's getting to the point I can't get any more off. Doesn't mean that thing's going to be sticky for a bit, but hey ho. Again, a bit more. I'll put photographs of these up on the page after it's all done, and of course, as usual, this will be on Listen Again, and you can watch me do this in your own time if this isn't convenient. As I say, we've got a bit more done on him. That's done with that, and then we will go and we will get another texture. Again, getting the light green. And the Byzantine haven't got static grass, and what they have got is just the 2-colour tufts on them. So that's all I'm doing with these. Should, thinking about it, I bought some Byzantines over to show you so you knew what I was doing, what I was aiming at. But again, we will be showing these off. There are also some more hobgoblins. That I've already done, that again, I really need to do a photo shoot with these with them, and some more hobgoblins. As I say, it's a fairly large unit game, and there we've got some of the light grass on there as well. You don't need much of the super glue, you just need enough to stick it down so that the things don't come off when handled. So that's him. Go back to the leader. Again, a bit more super glue. Which, as I say, is technically overkill, but I've met wargamers and I'm one myself. And you just press them down flat so that they're actually in proper contact all the way across the base, and it doesn't look odd that you've got a tuft of grass sort of floating in the air, which is a problem I've seen with people doing tufts. Don't worry about flattening the tufts, because to be honest, they'll basically spring back up. Again, there he is in all his glory. You'll get a better picture of him later. Now he is done. And he is done, so both of them are done. So I'll put those to one side, and then I'll go and see what I've done with the other grass. So bear with me a moment while I disappear and go and fetch the one thing that I didn't have to hand. What did I do with it? This is the story of my life, by the way. I lose things habitually, and then I have to find them again. I believe they were on a tray somewhere. Where have I put the damn stuff? What do you do with the damn stuff? Talking to himself on camera. This would be so much more efficient if I'd actually planned this tour. That's what I planned. There's actually some of it over here. Well, I'll get round so I can see what I'm doing. So you can see what I'm doing, rather than hearing this disembodied voice chatting at you. But anyway, disembodied voice returns and turns into me, unfortunately. I apologise for the severe lack of photogenetic of me, but I'm a classic wargamer type. This is the stuff that I'm going to use, which is Javis Countryside Scenic Grass. It is not the nicest grass in the world, stuff in the world, but it works, and I'm only using it to add a contrast to the Dunlending, the tufts, effectively. Now you apply this in exactly the same way that I did the snow, which means I've got to put these glasses back on so I can see what I'm doing. Find the brush I was using, grab me some, and just dab about. I presume that there'll be comments of how to do this properly, but this is the way I do stuff. And again, you can dry brush the sand a little bit to get sort of a nice combination of textures. You don't have to fill in all the gaps. I could do with something to catch this grass in, because again, it will get everywhere. But again, Javis has less naturalistic colours, but mixed in with the tufts, it doesn't look out of place, whereas on its own, it might. Again, you give it a little bit of a press down, so but again, that's the tufts on, and you wait until you give him a good shake when he's gone off. And I'll show some photographs later tonight of when he's gone off. And then we're going to get the Dunlending. And you want to leave a bit of the earth colour behind to show, because again, the whole point about the base is to make it as interesting as possible visually. So we're going to just use this and that and crush it down a little bit around the edges. And we're done. Again, can't tilt him too much because it will fall off everywhere and make an even worse mess than it already is. And I'll just flip that back off the computer and drop that there. Again, I didn't get some water when I went around there, so I'm going to have to clean the brush off in the unapproved way. Fortunately, PVA is entirely non-toxic, so, and I can prove this because I'm not dead, having eaten quite a lot of it over the years. Right, that is pretty much all the modelling I've got to show you. And again, we'll just get tidying up so that they're all over on the thing that I brought them across on. Because again, I didn't bring, so they're a bit organised. So bear with me while I get a bit organised. Separate them out as best I can, so that I try to don't let the static ground, this loose stuff mix up together, because it doesn't matter that much with the static grass, but you really don't want it to happen with the snow, because that would mean the snow would have to go in the bin. Now, the other things I want to show you is something that came through the post, and I've already shown off on YouTube, which are shown off on Facebook. Again, less than photogenic view is why we cover the bits and pieces that I'm after. So that's that. What is this? This is Ruckus. It's not been released yet because it goes on sale with the magazine Wargames Illustrated. However, I got an early copy of it via Mr. John Martin, who wants me to do him a Ruckus warband. Ruckus is by the same people who do Never Mind the Billhooks, which I'm quite a fan of, having been forced to play it by John Martin and painted far too many Swiss and Landstecs for him. But this is, instead of it being an army game, is a small skirmish game. You're talking about 12 models, 3 leaders, and 9 rank and file. Though I'm fairly sure you could possibly push the number of rank and file up a little bit, maybe to a total warband signed of 15, but I've not actually played it at all. So, but I'm just looking at the mechanics and thinking, looks like you could probably stretch that a bit. But so a leader and 4 rather than leader and 3. Probably wouldn't add any more leaders, but this is good for sort of small ruckuses. Very similar random action system that the turn order that Never Mind the Billhooks used, and its card. There's event cards and all sorts of things. Haven't got any event cards done. For the basic version, you have to make your own. Possibly there's going to be a downloadable set at some point when it's published, but I don't have them yet. But they're illustrated in the book, and like Never Mind the Billhooks, which I also have behind me, the artwork is beautifully photographed, and I am insanely jealous of the quality of the photographing. I can make scenery like that, but I can't take photographs of it that are anywhere near that good. But that's Ruckus. Only downside to it is because it comes with a magazine, it's a little bit flimsy. So I'm hoping that they do a bit more of a substantial copy like they did with Deluxe Billhooks last year. I mean, my copy of Billhooks is there, and some of my collection of modelling stuff is there. We're just going to be tidying this bit up, so this is all moving upstairs, and you'll be able to see it better there, and you'll also be able to see the new shelves of stock when I've got home and I've got them in place. Anyway, we've been at it for 45 minutes. I can't see anybody in the chat, unlike last week where we had the lovely Berlin Tuesday join me. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes and just leave you to it. I hope you have fun with the rest of your evening. So ta-da for now, and I'll see you on Facebook tomorrow, and I'll probably see you here before next week, but otherwise definitely this time next week. Well, 45 minutes at 7 o'clock. Anyway. Bye.